That should be good. I think the volume's good.
We good? Let me find out let me find out, man.
Hey, if the volume's not good though, just adjust it.
Go that way though, because I don't want to stare at your back.
Yeah. We good?
There you go.
Alright.
Okay, audience, are we ready?
Still ready.
Yeah, stand up here.
All right, whenever you're ready.
I told him, OJ, you're breaking the laws of God. One day, everybody's going to know everything that you've done, man.
You're a black man in America. You're fighting our war.
Who's seen a man? Where you gonna run to?
The reality.
Today we embark on a captivating journey into this realm of sports documentaries, a genre that transcends mere highlight reels and transforms into a powerful medium of storytelling. In the next few minutes, we'll navigate through the historical evolution of this cinematic art form, dissect its critical elements, and explore examples that will range from commendable to forgettable. At the heart of our exploration lies the profound ability of sports narratives to encapsulate the entire spectrum of human emotions. Think about it. Sports are not just about the game on the field or the court. They're about the stories that unfold, the stories of triumph, defeat, and the controversies that send shockwaves through the sports world. Consider how events like the O.J. Simpson trial or the sheer presence of Michael Jordan during his era transcended sports, shaping and defining the very generation of their time. These stories, intertwined with the magic of sports, become the raw and filtered moments that make sports a unique lens through which we experience joy, sadness, and even the complexities of controversy. This is precisely what sports documentaries excel at, capturing these poignant, often overlooked moments and crafting them into compelling narratives. As we delve into this historical evolution of sports documentaries, we'll trace their roots from basic highlight reels to the sophisticated and profound storytelling we witness today. The journey is not just a chronological progression, it's a reflection of how sports coverage has evolved in tandem with broader cultural shifts and societal changes. And then there's the spectrum of examples, the good, the bad, and the average. These documentaries act as mirrors reflecting not just the nuances of the game, but also the varying degree of storytelling prowess. They become invaluable guides for discerning viewers and aspiring filmmakers, helping us understand what works and what falls short. Finally, we'll shine a spotlight on the true stars of the show, the great examples of sports documentaries. These are works that transcended the genre, leaving the enduring impact. What makes them exceptional? We'll explore the storytelling finesse, emotional resonance, and cultural significance that elevate these documentaries to true cinematic gems. Before we dive headfirst into this exploration, let's acknowledge the essence of sports narratives, the happiness, the sadness, and the controversies that define them. Through the lens of the camera, sports documentaries become not just a recollection of events, but a genuine art form, weaving together stories that resonate far beyond the playing field and shape the very era in which they unfold. As we move forward, I'm delighted to introduce Sam, who will be our guide through the enthralling history of sports documentaries. Brace yourselves for an enlightening journey into the evolution of this cinematic art form. Sam, the floor is yours.
Documentary is defined as a non-fictional motion picture intended to document reality, primarily for instruction, education, or keeping a historical record. In 2021, the market size for the documentary industry was worth north of $11 million, and by 2050, that's projected to grow to over $15 million. The market for these films has grown exponentially over the decades, evolved to be relevant to a myriad of topics, and has recently seen a large uptick in the amount of stories told about one of the most popular pastimes in the world, sports. So what makes a good documentary? A good documentary needs to go beyond the topic and tell a story, while still portraying real events and people. It needs to go in-depth into players' lives, a team coming together, a great season, or some other compelling story. It needs a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the director and the film crew need access. A good documentary will make the audience ask, how did they get that footage or that interview? Or what access did they have to get that quote? An example is the documentary Free Solo. In it, the documentary covers Alex Honnold's attempt to free solo the cliff face El Capitan in Yosemite Valley. Instead of just covering the topic of rock climbing, it delves into his journey, his personal life, and his climbing attempt while providing drama and suspense for the audience. So now a quick history lesson. The first recognized documentary was called Nanook of the North and was created in 1922. The format for these films originated in Russia due to a request from the government for a film that strayed away from the commercialization of the West and was purely factual. This is ironic because today, documentaries are commercialized all over the world, most especially in the West, and this can be seen by the Oscars and Emmys award ceremonies. These ceremonies are held every year, and winning these awards is considered to be a big honor and provides prestige for a director or film crew. The increase in production of documentaries from 2018 to 2021 was 63%, and the demand for these films increased 143%. This rise in popularity is partly due to streaming services. Hundreds of millions of people all over the world are subscribed to Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, and many others. These streaming services provide these documentaries with no extra effort needed to consumers. They're just showing up on their screens. Another factor that contributed to rise in popularity was COVID-19. People were stuck at home with not much to do, and were living vicariously through films, still trying to travel and explore, and experience things like sporting events, which at the time were canceled to the public. So what topics can a documentary cover? Documentary could cover nature, politics, rights movements, science, history, sports, and many more. One of the most famous documentary series of all time was called Planet Earth. This show showed environments and animals all over the world. A good documentary will fit the zeitgeist of the times, or in other words, it will fit whatever the world deems normal at the time. When Planet Earth was released, it connected people with the beauty of our planet at a time when environmental concerns were rising substantially. So why are sports documentaries growing? Today, commercialized TV and celebrities like athletes are highly discussed and shown off to the public. Like Planet Earth, which played into the norm of its time, sports documentaries play off of current events and athletes that are easily thrust into the spotlight for viewers. So what are some other reasons for growth? Sports documentaries capture the person behind the sport and show us thoughts and feelings in a moment of time. They shed light on behind the scenes and create a feeling of exclusivity. And they promote diversity by highlighting sports and athletes that are less known about. It can be difficult to communicate the dedication by just watching the sport itself, but a documentary can showcase the triumph, heartbreak, passion, and dedication behind the game. Additionally, some sporting events have an impact beyond the game. Some examples would be the Berlin Olympics, where Jesse Owens raced against the Nazis, or the Miracle on Ice, which was a hockey game between the USA and USSR. So why do sports fit the documentary model so well? First off, there's already a huge market waiting. Professional leagues like the NFL, NBA, and MLB have hundreds of millions of fans that at times can be fanatical. Sports fans enjoy the behind the scenes of their favorite teams and athletes. Additionally, most of these are not very expensive to produce. Take ESPN's 30 for 30 series. These episodes cost just over $500,000 each to produce, which sounds like a lot, but when compared to the hundreds of millions it costs to broadcast live sports, this is a bargain, especially when considered that they can be replayed throughout the years and continue to generate income. To conclude, the rapid growth of the industry has supported a modern-day explosion of demand for documentaries. Sports fit the mold perfectly for what it takes to commercialize and sell a topic and have been at the forefront of streaming services' latest success. Now I'll pass the baton off to Pete to introduce how to evaluate a sports documentary.
So how exactly do we evaluate a sports documentary? Despite the presented innocentness and politeness or the anger, despite OJ's presented innocent politeness or the anger and competitiveness in Michael's eyes, how do we dissect the purity of a sports documentary? Well, obviously they must have good ratings. Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb are great sources for finding out how a sports doc is rated and reviewed. Sports docs must also have a strong thesis, it must be historically accurate, and it must exploit the truth behind the topic at hand. Rotten Tomatoes is a popular review website that compiles and analyzes film and television reviews from professional critics and audiences. The site collects reviews from the professionals that are affiliated with various media outlets, including newspapers, magazines, and online publications. Rotten Tomatoes also collects reviews from the general audience like you and I. Rotten Tomatoes and the Tomato Meter of the world's most trusted recommendation resources for quality entertainment. You may ask, what's the tomato meter? The tomato meter score is a score given to a film or documentary based off the opinions from hundreds of film and television critics. The tomato meter score represents a percentage of positive professional critic reviews, and the score is calculated after a film has at least 5 reviews. IMDb, which stands for Internet Movie Database, is an online database that provides information about films, TV programs, and actors. IMDb is populated through a combination of professional contributions and user-generated content. They allow users to rate film on a scale from 1 to 10. Users are also often found to submit a written review and share their opinions on a particular film or show. Who the Doc is about and who produced it. Obviously, a highly rated documentary is going to be about someone, something, or some team whose name goes down in the history books, whether that be for a good or a bad reason. And who produced the documentary? Are the names of those involved backstage well-known names? Probably. The backbone of any good documentary is rooted in its storytelling. Sports documentaries not only portray the game, but also the narrative and backstory woven around it. A good sports documentary engages the watcher from the beginning and continues to have them hooked throughout. The storyline should stay consistent and develop over time to enhance the importance of those involved. A bad documentary would possess the characteristics of implementing random information at random times. Cinematography and visuals play a huge role in the evaluation of a sports documentary, not just to show the truth of transpired events, but also capture the emotion, intensity, and purity of the sport. A visual masterpiece to go along with an intense, eye-opening storyline is the easier said than done secret to a successful sports documentary. On top of outstanding visuals, a top-tier documentary must also include relevant music and sounds. Having a well-thought-out audio would ultimately intensify the feeling and emotion the watcher endures. Authenticity. Documentary critics cannot exaggerate the importance of accuracy enough. As sports fans, we want to know the truth behind not only the game, but also the truth and insights on occurring events backstage, or should I say, in the locker room. We want to see the struggles and how athletes overcame or shied away from adversity with a behind-the-scenes point of view. How does the documentary strike the emotions of the watcher? How does it try and relate us to these athletes who we see at the top of the social pyramid? Evaluating a sports documentary is not easy. It is a process that involves dissection of the truth, emotional impact, visuals, and authenticity. As you venture off into your next sports doc binge journey, remember to emphasize your feels towards the narrative, the emotions presented, and the craftsmanship that goes into the existence of a sports documentary. I'll now give the stage to my dear friend Josiah, who's going to dive into the good, the average, and the bad examples of a sports documentary.
The good, the average, and the bad. 3 sections to divide a sports documentary based on critic ratings, planning, access to behind the scenes, and streaming and box office success. Where do a majority of these documentaries fall? Most fall short, only reaching average numbers when it comes to this criteria, and others getting branded as a bad sports documentary. 2 examples we'll be going over today are Mike Tyson's Fist of Iron and Anderson Silva's Like Water. For those who don't know, Mike Tyson is a boxing legend. He fought between the weights of 217 and 223 in the heavyweight division. After retiring from a successful boxing career, he would go on to cameo in a few movies like The Hangover, for example. His documentary, Fist of Iron, follows his success as a boxer from when he was little, getting into fights in school, to starting in his first fight in the boxing ring. Mike Tyson's Fist of Iron received a critic rating of 3.4 out of 10, with only 8 ratings being provided on IMDb, which comes from a mix of audience members and people within the industry rating it. Following this criteria, step 1 has already been checked, low critic rating. As for planning, not much information on that was available. Going through IMDb and even signing up for the pro version to get access to box office success, behind the scenes, and planning of the movie, nothing was available. The movie almost seemed like an attempt for a quick cash grab using one of the greatest boxers' names, Mike Tyson. which wouldn't be surprising as this has been done many times before with an almost oversaturation feel to it when it comes to documentaries about Mike Tyson, and a majority of these do end up being unsuccessful. With little to no information other than critic ratings, it is clear that after being rated, critics knew there would be no successful outcome of this documentary and therefore did not follow up for more information. This is just one of many bad examples of sports documentaries that just get swept under the rug, forgotten about, and never to be brought up ever again. As for the UFC great Anderson Silva, it is a bit of a different story. For those who don't know, Anderson Silva is a Hall of Fame legend in the UFC. He fought in the middleweight division and held on to that title for 2,457 days, or 6 years. He reigned on this division with a 16 winning streak, beating big names like Chael Sonnen, who was also considered a great in the sport. In his documentary, he is followed throughout his winnings up to his fight against Chael Sonnen. This documentary received a 6.9 out of 10 from 1.5K ratings on IMDb, which is right around the average of scores that IMDb gives out to all movies, which is 6.7 out of 10. It also received a 66% from audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes, and critics leaving comments on the movie like it feeling incomplete and a tepid, superficial sports documentary. Though the ratings weren't good nor bad, it still received a very mediocre score compared to other documentaries of its time. When it came to behind the scenes, though, there wasn't much at all either. Few articles came out before and after the release of the documentary, but not much was in those articles. Same goes with planning. However, there was a turnaround when it came to information about box office and streaming success. The documentary's budget was set at $325,000, which would unfortunately not make the money back and instead earn $227,332 worldwide. At the time, it wasn't released to any streaming platforms that were available either. Although the documentary has more information than the last, the numbers it puts up from ratings to money earned isn't exactly great, but it also isn't bad. It's enough to narrowly escape the bad category while still falling short of the grades, like Noah will speak on in a second. This criteria isn't strict for the fighting documentaries either. As previously shown before, this criteria is structured for any sports documentary. For example, the sports documentary Pelé, Birth of a Legend, a story that follows the making of a soccer legend, received a 7.1 rating on IMDb and a 32% score on Rotten Tomatoes. It also has plenty of behind-the-scenes access with clips showing actors recreating special moments that Pelé did. It also only grossed about $57,000 in the US and Canada alone, while worldwide it grossed nearly $8 million. With this criteria taken into consideration, the documentary is another prime example of an average sports documentary. After reviewing the differences between these two categories of bad and average, and the examples provided, I hope to have structured a clear and outlined understanding of how to personally label sports documentaries and what goes on into the ratings of these. From what critics have to say about a documentary and how many actually rate one, to the background information on the planning and behind the scenes, if any at all, to lastly the success and money outcome of these documentaries, I hope these provide a clear understanding and foundation on what to base your opinions on.
There's many great sports documentaries out there, but the two that really stand out are O.J. Made in America and The Last Dance. Both of these are rated the highest according to Rotten Tomatoes, O.J. being Made in America being rated a 95.6 and The Last Dance being a 94.3. But what makes both of these so good? One of the main reasons is the time that both of these documentaries were released. For example, O.J. Made in America was so popular because, yes, it focused on the Adrian trial, but it also focused on the Rodney King beatings and the Los Angeles riots that were happening, which provided a cultural backdrop on which the trial unfolded. For The Last Dance, however, the documentary was released in 2020, the same time that we were all inside because of COVID-19. You can argue why The Last Dance was so popular was because it was a great distraction from what was going on outside and released some stress and anxiety of being inside 24/7. So, what was The Last Dance? The Last Dance was primarily about basketball, but the documentary goes in depth about the intensity of NBA basketball. It dives into why Michael Jordan, who was who we know as today, dominant in theory. It also shows, yes, Jordan was the dominant player that we know today, but it's still, at the end of the day, it showed how team dynamics were affected by such a towering figure. The Last Dance has two timelines. The first one being, which covers the Bulls' ascending in dominance from drafting Jordan, to the three-peat from 1991 to 1993, and another from 1996 to 1998. The second timeline follows a much more detailed examination of just winning that last season. It covers the futures of Jordan, Coach Phil, Jackson, and an underpaid second man, Scottie Pippen. For O.J. America, it explores the life of O.J. Simpson, a former NFL player and actor. The events surrounding his highly publicized trial in 1994 through 1995. The series dives into Simpson's rise to fame as a football star, his transition to Hollywood, and the racial dynamics of his relationships and interactions. It covers the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson, his ex-wife, and Ron Goldman, the criminal in which Simpson was accused of their murders. The documentary examines the social and cultural context of the time, including issues of race, celebrity, and domestic violence. It also provides a comprehensive look at the trial, the legal strategies employed by both the prosecution and the defense, and the verdict that acquitted Simpson, sparking widespread public debate. Another reason why both of these were so good was the cinematic quality both documentaries had. The O.J. documentary was around $5 million, and For the Last Dance was around $20 million. One of the strengths O.J. Made in America had was it's distinguished by its good judgment. Rather than cover every piece of information from the highly televised case, it places the trial's most important moments in the context of the pressures they in turn created. One of the strengths The Last Dance had was the masterclass storytelling. The documentary portrays different aspects of Michael Jordan's life and personal life. The Last Dance also gave us amazing behind the scenes of the famous Chicago Bulls team that we know today. Whether it was the candid interviews with Jordan himself, the challenges, triumphs, and the controversies that involved the team. But the main reason both of these documentaries were so successful was because they both had amazing storytelling, amazing research, and are visually stunning and emotionally touching. To wrap things up, whether it's the electric atmosphere of a Bulls game or the tension inside a courtroom during the trial of the century, both of these documentaries transport us, making us active participants in the narratives. I'll hand it to Jim.
In the past few minutes, we've navigated through the historical evolution of this cinematic art form, dissected its critical elements, and explored examples that will range from commendable to forgettable. Now, as we wrap up, I want to acknowledge one challenge we faced in making our case. Sports, as a subject, can sometimes be taken for granted in the realm of serious storytelling. It's easy to see it just as a game, a competition, or a series of athletic feats. But here's why we believe sports documentaries step into the spotlight. They transform what might be perceived as routine into a canvas for profound human narrative. While other groups will rightfully celebrate celebrate the greatness within their chosen art forms, our venture into the realm of sports documentaries won't just be about highlighting exceptional moments. We set out to prove that sports documentaries are a unique form of art in their own right, precisely because they breathe life into stories that might otherwise be overlooked. Unlike some art forms that are more straightforward in their storytelling, we believe sports documentaries go beyond mere recounting. They capture the essence of the human spirit. It's about weaving a narrative, evoking emotions, and creating a visual experience that will resonate with all of us. So as we pass the baton to the next presenters, let's not just appreciate the greatness within their arts, but let's also acknowledge the distinct journey that each group will take. Our hope is that by recognizing the varied expressions of art today, we will leave this room with a broader understanding of the diverse ways in which creativity unfolds. And to everyone in the audience, whether you're a sports aficionado or not, I encourage you to explore these captivating sports documentaries. They offer a lens into the human experience that transcends the game itself, inviting you into a world where everyone can find a meaningful story to connect with. Thank you all for joining us in this exploration, and let's look forward to celebrating the multitude of artistic expressions that will make our world better.
Nice job, guys. Any questions for this group?
I ain't answering that question.